Adam Silver with a statement over the weekend about the G League Ignite, the developmental league and program that they have, and essentially making comments that he'd like to see more development in American basketball players earlier.
Yeah.
And
because the G League isn't getting it done. The G League Ignite, and especially in the face of NIL, you're going to be able to. Less and less people are going to the G League Ignite because you're going to be able to make a ton of money on NIL. I mean, it's not some sort of great, like, coming into the league. No offense to, some of the guys that have come in from that league. They're not coming in prepared like the Europeans. You got to go. I mean, those guys, the European guys, they started at 10. So those guys started at 8. When did Messi? I know it's soccer, but Messi's family moved from Argentina to Spain, I think, when he was like 8 or 9 years old.
And you and I were talking about this in the break. When I was in the Bay Area covering sports down there, was looking to do a feature. There was this little soccer wizard down there. His name was Joshua Pinadath, and he was like 8 or 9 years old, and these YouTube videos made him look like a little Messi. Yeah. When he was 11, his family moved him from the Bay Area to Spain so that he could be in the Real Madrid Academy.
Yeah, and I said that's where they found Messi and moved him over there. He was a little kid. There's video of him of just playing in the colors, playing in the Barcelona striped jerseys when he was like 10 years old. And this is the thing, they do this around the world, and I don't know cultural fit. I just don't know if I don't know how that would go here.
That was what I was going to ask you. Could we achieve that here, or are the people who would get involved in it the over-the-top sports parents? And
I hate to do this because I hate sports parents. No offense, but I think travel ball, it's just the dumbest thing in the world. It's so ridiculous where we've gone with youth sports. But from Tiger Woods to Serena and Venus Williams, Bryce Harper did this, LeBron to a certain extent when he was like 13. Going all in with your kid when they're that talent, it works. Now, does it raise good human beings? Does it raise you to be kind of screwed up? I mean, Harper turned out okay. I think LeBron obviously turned out okay. The Williams sisters, Tiger seems to be a little
damaged.
A little damaged, but I mean, I don't know.
He's been pretty damn successful too.
Exactly. So, I mean, that works. Don't get me wrong, but I remember seeing an HBO Real Sports piece on this. I know it's weird, apples to oranges, but the LPGA is dominated by South Koreans. I guess like golf in South Korea, it is like every girl, they just like this is look up the top 20 players in the LPGA. It's littered with South Koreans, and when these girls are like 8. Their parents pull them out of school and they go to these golf academies, and they are cranking out the best golfers in the world. And that gets highlighted as this great thing. And what they highlighted in this piece is what you don't see is the thousands of girls that don't make it.
The fallout, essentially, on the other side.
And all of a sudden you're 18 years old and you have no education to speak of. And you're just, it's kind of a sad thing, like racehorses that get put out to pasture. And you've just, you have no other skills. Your whole life has been golf. And then it's like, oops, it's not going to happen. So, like in the U.S., if we open this up and we said, hey, we're going to do what everyone else does. McEnroe's talked about this with tennis. John McEnroe, we don't have elite U.S. tennis players.
And we haven't for a decade.
And his thing is because when the kids in Europe are 8 and 10, they go and they go to these academies and this is their life. And so far in the country, we haven't been willing to do that. And I don't know what the backlash would be. I don't know.
Are you surprised that hasn't happened? I kind of am, to an extent. It feels like there's enough competitive juices here that we would have created something like that on our own. But maybe it's that the parents can't delineate and who's a future star and who's not.
God,
I don't know.
Can you imagine the absolute early on? Maybe it would sort itself out, but can you imagine the S show?
No.
Of sports parents pulling their 10-year-old out of everything and just saying, you are going to go live, breathe sports. We don't care about anything else. This is what you are going to do. Can you imagine how many dumbass parents would be putting in a kid that has zero chance that would get dumped into these academies? One, it would be, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet due to the massive cash grab. I don't know from a society standpoint if we would be okay with that. But we would produce better athletes, which is, again, I think why around the world, I think we're getting lapped. But I don't know if we're ready for the cost as a society. There would certainly be pushback.
I'd make the argument that it's already kind of happening. Like when you're a high school athlete, you have different gyms you can go train. If you're in the Seattle area, you want to go to FSP. If you're down here, you're looking at like a new athlete or an A3 or a grind time. You're looking at these different weight rooms where you can go. If you're a basketball player, you want to get in with Shoot 360. You want to find the top AAU team. You want to find the Vanport to go and play for and kind of build in that academy-like setting. The difference is in the States, we go out, and if you're on an AAU team or you're on a volleyball team, every weekend you're going out and you're playing somewhere between 8 to 12 games. Where when you look in Europe, what they're doing is they're playing 1 or 2 games and you're practicing every week. And most of these AAU teams, kids play on 2 or 3 of them because the whole thought process is, well, you're going to learn by playing in game.
More games, more exposure.
And that's why those kids from Europe, that's why they're better. It's because they're more technically sound.
And we do have the IMGs and we have was it Bishop Gorman, but these are still relatively small things. Like in other parts of the world, I mean, I know obviously we're dealing with an entirely different regime, but go look at the way China does it.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but even though like the IMGs, I feel like that's more of a place for kids to go get noticed as a senior year instead of being at their high school or like as a gap year before college. Whereas we're talking about academies that start young, 8, 10, 12
years old, and people being moved across the world.
Yeah.
In China, I guess I want to say they're young. It's like 10 or younger. They do like a national. They do like a national acumen thing where like all across the country, they go into all the elementary schools.
And they like test all the kids.
And if you have an acumen for something,
that's the field you're going to.
That's what you're doing. And like the parents don't really have a choice. It's like, yeah, well, your kid is now going to be a gymnastics and you're going to be a basketball player. And it's different. We are different here. And so
and having that choice is part of what makes being here great. But when you also identify something that someone's great at and you steer them towards it, it sometimes has a positive impact too.
I don't know. I don't know where this heads, but I will say that if we get lapped and we start really lagging behind, we don't like to lose. We'll play catch up. It would be fascinating because you're right, Will, that when you see a lot of these high school basketball players, they play like no elite basketball player, I swear, plays at his high school. I mean, I guess
it doesn't seem like
I guess Kevin Love stayed in like Lake O, but most of these kids, like you see them and it's like, you're from New Jersey, but you play down in Georgia or you bounce around. And
the private schools have a lot to do with it because they can offer scholarships, they can offer money.
But I mean, and so we are seeing like people dip the toes in the water, but wouldn't it be something if we just had the full on, you're 10 years old and it's like, well, we're putting you in the USA Basketball Academy. You are going to live in New York City. You're going to live there for 10 months and we don't really care about school. Yeah, you're not doing school. Look, you're going to play basketball. From when you're 10 to 18, you're going to, like, that's a bold thing. And some of those are national programs that countries do. So again, that's a little bit different because again, we're such a bigger country and I can't ever see the United States government necessarily getting involved in that, that level, but
not to produce the elite level athletes.
I think the other dangerous thing with that is everybody knows the kid at 10 years old who was 5'11".
Yep.
He had a mustache and it was a crappy one, but he had a mustache and he could throw 70 in Little League and he was taller than everyone and he could jump up and he could smack the backboard when he laid a ball up in basketball. And then guess what? When you got to high school, that was what the peak of that kid was.
But that's my point. Is over there, they don't care. Like that kid happens over there all the time and he washes out and no one gives a rip.
But to them, it's worth it because to
them, it's worth it. But here,
because they still yield the elite one too.
I don't know if we're willing to deal with the collateral damage. Again, go look at that piece on the LPGA in South Korea. It's sad. Like there are girls that are like 20 years old that can barely read and write. Like they have there's just no skills. They're like 20 years old and they're just absolutely fried. And if you don't make the tour, it's like, hey, but there's still parents that are just shoving them down there because the allure of it. And I feel like we would do that. I think if you gave parents the choice, there's nothing we love more in this country than believing that little Johnny and little Susie are going to be great. Look at all the travel teams. Look how many parents that can't afford it. I know people that did this. Like the families that can't afford it that are spending tens of thousands of dollars a year so that Susie can go play softball. And I hate to do this to Suze, but you're not playing professional. You're not making millions of dollars. right? You're doing it under the guise of you can get us a college scholarship. And I always ask, if you just took that money and actually put it in a college fund.
Yeah, instead of taking out a second mortgage on your house,
we see this all the time. And I just, if we went full academy style, one, it's expensive, and I think we would lean into it, and maybe that's what the future of it is. Maybe that's what, the NCAA and the idea of breaking away and the G League Ignite and all this. I do feel like we have a changing landscape in the world of sports, and it's a little bit like the metric system. Like, we're the only one that doesn't do it. Like everyone else around the world is on it. We're the only one that does this. We're the only one, like, when you travel across seas, the idea that our sports teams are tied to our elementary, middle, high school, and colleges is nuts to people. Like, we're the only country that does it. So are we going to continue to hold out and be like, what the hell is a meter and a kilometer? Kiss my ass. We're America. Or eventually, are we just going to get to the point where we're like, man, we've got to do this to catch up, because this is what the world is doing.
Well, and I guess my question is, how does it actually get done, or who's the one paying for it? Because Adam Silver clearly is saying, I think we need this. Is Adam Silver and the NBA now go out and try to fund something like this and start a new youth program, or is this like,
God? Because you imagine, like how does it people begin? Would be like, is Adam Silver kidnapping children? Because that. Like, I don't know, like, you're just going around, and again, we're having like national days where NBA scouts, like these academy, you imagine these weasels, the Sonny Vacarios of the world, like these AAU guys, like going around and like identifying kids at like 10 years old and being like, you're going to come live with me.
Silver comes and knocks at your door. Come on, kid.
Yeah, because that's not rampant for every sort of abuse that humanly possible. But I mean, it's essentially like what LeVar Ball did to his kids. He basically made his kids professional athletes at 10 years old.
He is what was Roger Williams? Was Serena and
same thing.
I mean, same type of deal with those kids. Absolutely.
The St. Browns, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, his brothers,
Equiminius and Amon-Ra. Yeah,
their dad did it. Again, Tigers did it. Like, there is something to be said that if
for kids with that potential, it does work.
Yes.
I think maybe you do too, that the biggest issue is the parent being able to accurately, essentially, scout the kid. Is it like, is this kid really special, or is it me wanting for them to be special?
Well, and this is a good point, Vancouver Ford text line. And this is a question I can't answer. Big money, but a life without anything but sports. Some kids might think that's a good thing. Again, that's the question. How many people are willing to roll that dice?
Right.
But how many kids
and live with that consequence if it doesn't work?
But this is the problem that I ultimately have with it. You're not asking kids, because the kid that's 8 or 9 years old, he doesn't get to make that choice.
Yeah.
You're asking parents.
No, it is the parent.
You're asking parents to take their kid and shove him into something when that kid has no choice in the matter. And you're saying, are you willing to do that? And that, I mean, I guess that's the whole idea. When you're a parent, you have that sort of control. That's weird. It's no different than, I guess, actors. Again, there's a really good documentary, and I forget what it is, but there's a hotel, or not a hotel, but apartments that are in California or in Hollywood.
Yeah, the Vine apartments.
Is that what it is?
It's
Vine?
not like called that, but all the Viners, when Vine was a thing, they all lived in the same apartment complex.
It's like every like, what is it, pilot season, right? Where they do pilots for TV shows and cast all that. All these parents from around the country move their kids into these apartments, and the apartments offer acting classes and voice lessons and all this. And you just get these, and it separates families, because it's usually the dad has to stay behind. So the mom moves out with a brother and sister, and they spend all this money, and they're really expensive, and they just bilk you for every dollar you have, under the guise of, we can make your kid a star.
We'll connect you with the right people, and you'll get your shot.
And they just keep coming back year after year after year after year, and you just see these kids, and it's sad. It is so sad to watch, because the parents are just shoving their kids into it. But we already do it with that. Are we just going to do it on a larger scale with sports? I don't know, but it certainly feels like, from a worldwide prospect, that's where this is headed.